Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up our victims from our favorite Overwatch cinematics. I'm your host, KendelR Janice, and today we'll be looking at the first 14 animated cinematics that are considered animated shorts. There are 14 of them in total, and if you add up all their runtimes, it equals to about 2 hours, which is the length of a movie. Since this video is a parody of the Dead Meat YouTube channel, I thought it was fitting to do all 14 of the animated shorts, since it equals out to a movie, since that's what they do on the kill count. As a quick introduction to the kill count, I will be counting anybody who dies in any of these 14 animated shorts, including dead bodies. However, there are technicalities in these shorts that will make this harder than it sounds. This is why I will try my best to follow their rule set on what counts as a kill, but some of these shorts are very difficult to count, so please be nice, I have not done this before. As one special rule for Overwatch in particular, Omnics do count as kills. So if I see an Omnic get destroyed, that counts. If an Omnic gets rebooted though, that will not count. There's not very many of these scenarios, but they do happen. So now with enough delay, let's get started. The first Overwatch animated short is called Recall. It follows a talking gorilla named Winston who is doing an experiment that ends up failing. Afterwards, he starts watching the news and hears about the Omnic War that is currently going on. It has apparently been going on for a while, so Winston starts to contemplate recalling Overwatch agents back into action. Any Overwatch activity is illegal, so Athena, his computer assistant, convinces him not to recall the past Overwatch members. I'm going to assume that most people have seen the animated shorts, but just in case you haven't, Overwatch used to be a group of heroes who protected the world from a group called Null Sector. Particularly, Null Sector in the first Omnic War was more or less an evil robot force that fought for Omnic rights, but they took it to the extreme, believing that they need control to save their Omnic race. However, even though Overwatch won the first Omnic War, tensions grew until Overwatch was forced to disband due to the controversies that I can actually get into if I do a part 2 doing the remainder of the animations. However, I can't do that right now because there is a flashback showing Winston on the moon. Winston grew up on the moon under the guidance of Dr. Winston, and since there isn't an animation outlining what happens to the Horizon Lunar Colony, I will briefly describe it. Horizon Lunar Colony was basically a research lab where they did a bunch of nerd stuff until some of the funny gorillas started acting strange. There was then a riot that ended with the scientists being killed and the test subjects taking over. The exception to this was Specimen 28 and Specimen 8, being Winston and Hammond, aka Wrecking Ball, respectively. Winston didn't agree with the riot, so he built an escape pod to go to Earth. Sidestepping over to Hammond real quick, I don't think he has a single animation, besides his origin story, but he is a hamster that strapped himself to Winston's escape pod when Winston left the colony. He ended up landing in Australia, joining Junkertown, which we can actually get into later when we cover the Wastelander. After reminiscing in the past, Winston actually gets interrupted by an intruder alert, so Athena turns off the lights and Winston goes monkey mode on them. Yet somehow none of them die. The guy who takes not only the most hits but the most lethal hits is still making noise after all of it. Therefore, I cannot count them, unfortunately. I just have to assume that their armor held up since the guy who took the most damage was able to survive it, and therefore the people who took less damage probably survived it also. There is a pretty big inconsistency in Overwatch on how much damage a person can take, so I will have to decide this on a case-by-case basis, and even to the point where it might have to be a shorts-by-short basis. This means that some of you guys might disagree with me, so feel free to tell me in the comments section what deaths I skipped that you would have added, and what deaths I added that you would have not added. Also, tell me down below what time it is for you, because it's currently 5 in the morning for me, and I don't know why I do this to myself. Anyways, Reaper was in the middle of stealing all the Overwatch agents' location, but he is tired of Winston's monkeying around, so he put him down real quickly. After another flashback to the Horizon Lunar Colony, Winston slides his failed experiment towards Reaper and gives himself enough time to zap Reaper away. Reaper has the ability of going into Wraith form, making him immune to damage, meaning that he survived this encounter. Winston then was able to save Athena from getting hacked, and is prompted with the recall button. His monkey intrusive thoughts get to him, and he presses the funny button, recalling Overwatch back into action. This animation here is why I will not be describing every single animated short. Since this is a kill count, I would like some people to die. And no, I am not counting the gameplay at the end of the shorts as a kill. That's just gameplay. It's not real. While the animated shorts are very real stories of people dying. So it is now time to move on to the next animated short we got, which is Alive. which follows Widowmaker to an assassination job. Knowing that I didn't skip over this one, you already know that somebody will perish. Right off the bat, we got Widowmaker knocking someone out off camera. This is another scenario where I don't know whether to count this as a kill or not, or at least I wouldn't know if it wasn't for the wiki explicitly saying that she knocked out this guard in particular. So this will be our baseline for a future guard survive. On the street, people are cheering for our favorite robo-monk Mondada, and within that crowd is Tracer, a former Overwatch agent and poster girl of Overwatch. Tracer was a pilot in the Royal Air Force as a test pilot, and this made her handpicked to try out an experimental fighter called the Slipstream, which ended up malfunctioning, and the aircraft disappeared until months later, where she would constantly appear and then reappear until our favorite guerrilla scientist came up with a device called the Chronal Accelerator, which kept Tracer from disappearing. This also gave her superpowers. Meanwhile, on the roof, Widowmaker is getting into position. She attacks a guard, but the sound that is made when she hits the guard is the exact same as the first guard, so I will count him as knocked out. I am very sorry for making you guys wait so long for the first kill, but I do need to be consistent, and it actually looks like we're about to get it. At least we would have if Tracer didn't intervene. After some stare shenanigans, Tracer warns Fortnite guy that there is a shooter and they must get Mondada out of there. This gives Widowmaker the chance to escape, and this time we have a new scenario. First up, Widow steps on one guy. I wish I would get stepped on. Then trips another, neither fatal. But then someone gets shot. From what I can tell, it actually hits his chest armor next to his neck and then burns his face. But I really don't know anything about bulletproof vests. But since it was so close to his neck, I actually am going to count this. This guy immediately knocks out or dies while falling, so I personally think it was fatal. As for this guy who gets shot twice in the chest, I will count him as alive since he was protected. I know that you can still die even if the bullets hit your vest, but this guy is making facial expressions while falling, and we don't know how hard he hit the ground, while the other guy was limping over when he was falling, so I don't know about that guy. Speaking of, Widowmaker flings the third guy and kicks him in the face. However, since it made the same noise as the first guy, I'm going to count him as alive. Widowmaker then spots her target, but Tracer is on her tail. After Widow shoots Tracer's pulse bomb, they both get flown off the building, and right before Widow can snipe Tracer, Tracer recalls out of the way just for the bullet to hit Mondada in the head, putting him on the kill count. After a quick scuffle, Widow then discards of Tracer, who is, of course, still alive, and Widowmaker then walks away to the ship for her escape. Honestly, I remember more people getting shot and dying in this animated short, but I guess the merciless killer isn't so merciless after all, at least on the confirmed parts of the kills. I'm very sorry I don't have more concrete kills for you guys, but that'll change in a few shorts, just trust me on that one. After Alive is the animated short Dragons. This follows Hanzo Shimada breaking into the Shimada's old residence to mourn his brother that he killed. However, while doing this, he is ambushed by a ninja assassin who is just a little bit too familiar. Right away, we see Hanzo shooting an arrow into an Omnic's chest, and I have to count this. The lights on his head didn't go out like Mondada, but that is probably a fatal shot. As for the other three human guards, Hanzo knocks them out, or they knocked themselves out, and one of these three, the one who knocked themselves out, is actually the Hashimoto gangster Pampamado, who actually shows up in a later cinematic. And unfortunately, here is where I'm going to actually cut this section short. The rest of the cinematic is an epic fight between Hanzo and the assassin, so I recommend you go watch it after this video. I will actually be putting all the links in the description of the video for if you ever want to watch any of the animated shorts, so as I said, feel free to go watch them after this video. Dragons is actually my favorite animation, but since there is no more kills, I'm going to be skipping to the next one. Next up is Hero, which is a short story about Soldier 76. We start our story with Alejandra going to the store to get some flour. On the way there, she runs into the Los Muertos, and they are beating up a random Omnic because they are racist, but luckily the funny little guy is still alive. She refuses to join into the beating, so they take her money and run off with it. Alejandra follows them until...
No! Hey, come on, compa, get up.
Oh, well, that one might have killed him. As a spoiler, this actually doesn't kill him because we see him getting up later and running away. As for these three bozos, they might have a different outcome. Soldier gets to jump on them and starts going sicko mode. After quite a few brutal hits, I can't say they are dead yet since the guy who took the most hits is actually going to be crawling away soon. As for this machine gun guy over here, I think he's dead. Soldier then activates his visor, shooting 3 guys off the roof, and we only see what happens to 2 of them as they both get shot and fall off the roof, but then we see all 3 of their bodies splat onto the ground. I think that they are probably dead, but I'm not going to count them yet. The purple guy starts to crawl away, but Soldier cuts his worm dream short by beating his head in with a flaming pinata. I am going to count this as him dying. I know this is the exact same guy who got beat into a concrete wall earlier, but he has got to be dead now. Not like it really matters in a moment though. Another truck pulls up and we see that orange and turquoise guy get up and leave, meaning that pink guy, green guy, and 2 out of the 3 roof guys are still on the floor. This is important because one of the Los Muertos throw a grenade at them and it blows up, meaning that the 4 of them to me are confirmed dead. Now technically Soldier 76 was able to survive the blast of the grenade when he shielded Alejandra. He is also a super soldier. I should have explained at the beginning that Soldier 76 is an enhanced super soldier, but I'm sure you guys have picked up on that by now. Anyways, the reason that Soldier just directly or indirectly killed 4 people was to give Alejandra her lunch money back, so that's nice, I guess. And then the story ends with Alejandra buying the flower and going home. I'm actually glad we could finally put some kills on the board. I sure hope there isn't a war flashback in the next... oh no. This is one of the multiple animated shorts with large-scale fights in them, so be ready for a lot of Omnic corpses. The Last Bastion follows my boy Bastion as he wakes up after being deactivated for a very long time. Particularly, he is woken up when a funny burb called Ganymede makes a nest on him. Bastion eventually is told to walk towards a marker on his map, so he does just that with his little bird friend following along. Even though I see metal, I don't think I see any Omnic bodies on Bastion's rediscovery of life, but Ganymede absolutely demolishes a caterpillar off screen, and I'm counting it. But then, Bastion's war PTSD gets triggered by a woodpecker. Luckily, I will not be counting trees on this kill count, but Bastion did scare off all the wildlife away from him, including his little bird friend. How sad. Regardless, Bastion treks on. That is until I have to count a bunch of dead Bastions scattered in a field. I counted 9 dead Bastions in the field and really thought there was going to be more, but I guess not. Anyways, Bastion then taps into the destroyed Bastion's memory for, oh my god, how am I supposed to count this? There is a full 20 seconds of non-stop carnage that I will have to do my best guess on how many people in Omnics die. By going frame by frame, I counted 7 Omnic deaths and 3 human deaths. This number is most likely not perfect, but this is as close as I can get with what I am assuming is confirmed deaths. Luckily, those background bombs you can see seem to miss most of their targets, so I didn't even need to speculate on how many died. By the way, since one of the bombs hit next to 3 people, but one of them was clearly alive, I will be saying that all 3 of them survived. Since I set a precedent earlier saying that if people suffer the same injuries, they suffer the same fate. Therefore, since one survived, I will say that they all did. But there were still 3 human deaths and 7 Omnic deaths that were not duplicates. I really thought there'd be more, but I guess not. My best guess is that the animation team had the background bombs miss, since they wanted more soldiers on the screen to make the scene look better, and they didn't want to overload their computer or program or something. So yesterday I stopped doing voiceovers around 6 in the morning, right? And then today I decided that instead of stopping at 6 in the morning, I'm gonna start at 6 in the morning. I haven't slept yet. Moving on though, once we get back to Bastion, his programming kicks in and he goes into killer robot mode. He then menacingly marches to the city, which would be his inevitable doom, until a little birdie friend comes up and places a twig on him. After seeing his friend still alive, Bastion exits killer robot mode and goes back into the forest. The 6th cinematic is Infiltration, where Reaper, Widowmaker, and Sombra break into Volskaya Industry in order to kill Katya Volskaya. We start with Sombra, an elite hacker and stealth master, hacking into the security system. We then see Reaper and Widow run in with Reaper, knowing how the shorts have been going, knocking someone out and not killing them, then Widowmaker getting into position to commit a murder.
The door.
Volskaya is currently inside talking about her new weapon, when right before Widow has her sights on her, the alarm goes off. Luckily, Widow missed, so we now get to see Reaper get some kills. I will be counting the shotgun kills in this scene, since it seems like the shotgun blast actually hits their whole body, rather than just a chest plate that protects them. So unlike Widow shooting into armor, I count 2 people getting shot and probably killed by Reaper. Until, of course, that giant robot Volskaya invented shuts Reaper down. This means that Sombra needs to be all over it.
I'm all over it.
Anyway, Sombra then guns down 2 guards, and she tries to catch up with Volskaya, but the giant robot removes the floor from under her. However, that was only a mere delay, and gives Sombra the chance to go invisible for another double kill. However, if you thought we were going to have our first female death on our hands, you are wrong. Sombra isn't here to commit murder, she's here to commit blackmail. Yay! Yippee! Anyway, Sombra successfully convinces Voskaya to do her a little favor later down the line. And when she escapes, she says that the mission is a failure. However, while we were watching Sombra, Reaper actually committed another murder. The giant robot guy is no longer with us. There is also an Easter egg at the end, which foreshadows a comic between Zarya and Sombra, but we will unfortunately not be covering that. Something we will be covering, though, is our next short, Rise and Shine. Well, actually, we will be summarizing it since it is the longest short, but also the one that we can recap the quickest. This is because all the deaths pretty much happen at once. May, a climatologist, is working in Antarctica in an attempt to gather research. However, because of a storm, they were not able to get their resources refilled and must go into cryostasis. This is great and all until 9 years passed and no one sent help. This is probably because Overwatch got shut down, then they just forgot about the team in Antarctica somehow. Regardless, when May figures this out, she goes back to her colleagues and find out that all 5 of them are dead. All the pods malfunctioned except for hers. The rest of the short is her surviving to get a signal going, and then going across the Antarctic to find civilization. During this, Snowball, May's robot buddy, actually shuts down, but he was just turned off, kind of like what happened to Bastion in the Last Bastion, so it doesn't count. However, next up is Honor and Glory, and you better strap yourself in. We got a lot coming. In just the second image of the short, we already see 2 dead Bastions to add to the list. We then see potentially 5 more dead Bastions, but one of them is already counted, so it is actually 4 more dead Bastions. We listened to Brigitte trying to convince Reinhardt not to join Overwatch after Overwatch activity became illegal. However, rather than saying anything, we actually see a flashback from the first Omnic War. Baldric von Adler, Reinhardt's mentor, will be joining Overwatch and leaving the Crusaders. Reinhardt doesn't believe that he should join, and Ryan believes that they should stay as Crusaders. However, their conversation is cut short since there are Omnics to be destroyed. We see one dead Omnic here when they are forming shields, and then another up on this ledge when one of these soldiers are shooting a rocket. This rocket ends up destroying all 7 of these Omnics. But this next part is going to be a little bit subjective, since it is super hard to tell how many Omnics Reinhardt charges through. However, it seems like he destroys 18 Omnics in just a single charge, with 10 more in this next scene, which includes dead bodies we didn't see earlier, and then 2 more here. Unfortunately, we actually get an overhead shot and there's more dead bodies, but I have to assume that these are dead Bastions that we already seen, except this guy. I'm counting him. Reinhardt then decides to press his ability 2 and charge into the fortified Orisa, something you should not do in Overwatch. While the OR-14 is stopping, we see 2 dead Bastions we didn't see beforehand, and in this wide cam, there is one more Bastion on the right that I don't think I've counted. Before the OR-15 can finish off Reinhardt, Baldric comes in to save him. However, he takes a brutal stab in the process. After adding the OR-14 to the kill count, we actually get another wide shot of the Omnic corpses. However, there is only one corpse that I didn't see earlier, so most of these have already been counted. Keep in mind, this is the best I can do with the limited perspectives we get, so if you counted a different amount of dead bodies, feel free to comment what you think I missed. Luckily, inside the castle, there aren't any more corpses, at least not yet. However, unluckily, it is pretty clear that Baldric is not going to survive his wounds. Because of that, he has decided to make his last stand. And the last stand it will be. We only see him hit 5 out of the 7 Bastions here, but I'm going to be counting all 7 of them, and you'll see why in a minute. We then see actually 3 human corpses for once, and 4 more human corpses here. We actually don't have any duplicates in the scene, since the guy falling over actually has a different face. This is what I mean by Overwatch isn't exactly consistent in their scenes, because this guy falling over should have been in both scenes, but one is wearing a mask and the other isn't. Therefore, even though we only see 5 in the shot, it was actually 7 based on looks and positions. Reinhardt finally decides to stop kills rather than adding them to the count, while Baldric goes on a killing spree with 9 more Bastions. And we can actually go back and add 2 more OR-15s and 3 more Bastions, since even though they were killed off screen, they still count, and that's why I counted 7 instead of 5 earlier. After 2 more OR-14 kills, a fighter jet adds all those Omnics chasing Reinhardt to the kill count, plus 3 more destroyed Omnics in the background. I will then be adding 3 more Omnic kills, since even though we aren't sure if these are duplicates or not, they are so far into the castle that I doubt they were. Baldric then sits down on the throne, and unfortunately, he perishes. Ending another amazing animated short, and as a reminder, I doubt I got every kill, but I went with the conservative approach rather than counting too many. But next up is Diva's short Shooting Star, and this one should be a little bit easier. The intro explains that Diva is a gamer turned pilot who is part of the Mecha Squad and protects South Korea. In the news report, we can actually count this giant robot on the kill count since we do see him, and it's assumed that he's destroyed. As we enter the Mecha Squad base, Taehan tells Diva that she needs to take a break, but she disagrees since everyone around her depends on her. Before he can dispute anything though, 5 Gwinshin Omnics start heading towards the base in the city. Their goal seems to be to blow up Mecha Base, but after Diva destroys 4 of them, the last one actually starts heading for the city. And this one isn't a pushover either, and Diva has to ask Taehan to self-destruct the mech in order to blow up the last Omnic. Diva ends up surviving the explosion, dodging being added to the kill count. Next up would be the animated short reunion, but I am pretty sure that no one dies, since the wikis say that everyone is still active and so no one died. As a reminder, Overwatch shorts are inconsistent with how much damage a character can take, and I said that earlier. So even though Bars, who is this little funny robot guy, was literally shot in the chest, I guess they rebuilt him since he is technically still alive. However, this is another one of my favorite shorts, so please go watch it after. I saw this short the minute it came out, so you don't know how much I like it. Now it is time to get into the current Overwatch 2 animated shorts. First up is the Wastelander, and I'll break the news early and say that we actually don't have a single death in this entire cinematic. Just kidding. Even though this Omnic could have been dead forever, I saw his corpse, so I'm gonna add him to the list. After Junker Queen saves Geiger from getting hit, we actually do see the graves of her family members. And even though it's for a very split second and it's only the graves, we did see them alive in the short. Not like that really matters because we've seen corpses and counted them anyways. But we only see 3 of her family members still alive, and therefore, Stone, her dad, and then 2 other siblings will be added to the kill count. I also no longer see that baby, so I'm inclined to believe it's dead also. I thought that little Junker Queen was holding the baby, but no, that's just her clothing, so the baby is probably just dead. So even though we only see 3 graves, I'm pretty sure 4 of her family members are dead, as we only see 3 plus her. I decided not to go into detail on this story, since this is one of the best action-wise shorts, and is more entertaining to watch than describe. This same statement can actually be said for the next one we'll be skipping, which is Kiriko's short. Papamoto, who I mentioned earlier, and the Hashimoto need money from one of Kiriko's neighbors, and then Kiriko ends up beating them up. This short is cute. Go watch a child nearly murder someone. However, second to last of the animated short category is Calling following Sojourn. We see Sojourn, an ex-Overwatch member, living a chill life getting a drink until Noah Tremblay, a police officer, arrives. They discuss the issue of old Overwatch members doing illegal vigilante work until Tremblay tells her about a new vigilante who saved him and his crew from some Omnics. I count 7 Omnics getting absolutely destroyed by Tremblay and the vigilante. It is also pretty clear that the vigilante is Sojourn. Tremblay also mentions that none of his team died, so no human deaths. Tremblay accuses Sojourn of being the vigilante, but then we see that Null Sector is attacking Toronto. Looking out of Sojourn's window, we actually see a plane get shot down, meaning that we can actually add another death, since we can assume that at least 1 human was on that plane. Sojourn then starts to gear up, and Tremblay decides against arresting Sojourn. And on the contrary, he tells his people to listen to Sojourn, since she is their only hope. However, since we aren't playing the PvE, we don't get to see any more deaths. Well, at least in this short. A Great Day is probably the animated short I was looking forward to the least, since at the very beginning of the short, we are told that they destroyed a 300,000 ton neurosector carrier, aka tons of Omnics die, and I cannot give an exact number. However, I will give you all a kill count number based on what we see on screen. At the beginning of the short, Reaper and Sombra are talking to Doomfist about a power relay data that they were supposed to steal, but some of it was lost, presumably because of Maga. When Sombra hacks into the carrier, I can off the bat cross off at least 70 Omnics, since we know that they will be destroyed in the explosion. I calculated this by seeing how many Omnics were in each row, which is 5, and then there was 7 rows of Omnics. Multiply that by 2 for each side, and that's 70. Sombra and Reaper then kill 11 more Omnics. Maga's kills in this scene do not count since he is destroying the Omnics that we already counted earlier. After another Omnic falling to Reaper's shotgun, Sombra starts taking the data. While defending Sombra, Reaper then starts going on a killing spree, killing 11 more Omnics. We then see Maga take out 6 more. Sombra eventually breaches through the tough security, only for her translocator to break. After jumping out of the carrier and then translocating onto the ship like we saw in the beginning, we are now back to the conversation with Doomfist. Doomfist threatens them to deal with Maga, so Sombra confronts him. But before we can see what Sombra was gonna do, Maga shows her a little something. His device that he stole from the ship. Going back to the flashback, we see Maga destroying 8 more Omnics. There is a chance that these are duplicate kills, but I'm sure we're undercounting, so that'll be fine. While Sombra and Reaper were going for the plans, Maga was actually going for the power relay, which ends up causing the explosion. During Maga's exit, I tried my best not to count an Omnic twice, so I think 27, and then, oh my god. How many are freaking in there? There's even like Omnics on a conveyor belt! How am I supposed to count this? Anyways, on the ground I counted 54 Omnics, including some slightly hidden ones, and then I calculated that the conveyor belt created 1 Omnic every second. Since there are 6 conveyor belts and this battle goes on for about 15 seconds, that means that 90 Omnics were destroyed, plus the 5 on each conveyor belt that were already there. Meaning that 174 Omnics were destroyed in just that room alone, from what we could see on screen, of course. This is obviously grossly neglecting the fact that the whole entire ship blew up, which probably had thousands of Omnics on it, but we will only be counting what we see on screen or can presume are on screen, since we don't know how many there are on the carrier. We then come back to Maga, clearly happy with what he's done, and so is Sombra. It looks like today was a great day, but not for my sanity. Guys, it's almost 7 in the morning. I work tomorrow. Oh shoot, I gotta get my laundry done. How many people died in the 14 animated shorts? Let's find out and get to the numbers. 464 people died in the 14 Overwatch animated shorts, which includes 428 Omnics, 35 humans, and 1 Caterpillar, as long as we neglect all the implied deaths from the giant carrier crash. If you're curious, out of the human deaths, 29 were male, 2 were female, and 4 were unidentified. This would actually be the 7th highest kill count in the kill count series if I was James A. Janice. However, I'm not, so this is the 7th place in only theoretical. With a runtime of 108 minutes, that gives us a kill on average every 13.9 seconds. Also, if you don't know, typically they award the coolest kill and lamest kill, and I did not think about this, I just remembered while recording this. So I'll give the coolest kill to Baldric, since he spent his last moments in life just killing a ton of Omnics, and then dying on the throne for an epic ending. And then dual machete, or whatever he calls it, for the lamest kill. The one that I think of off the top of my head is all those Omnics that just die in an explosion, because there's like 174 of them, and they just all die in an explosion. That's kind of lame. And that's about all. If you're even more curious, here's my dry erase board I counted the deaths on. Keep in mind that this is my first time doing this, and there is a big chance I made a mistake. With that being said, if you want to see me do this again with the other cinematics, make sure to support the channel in any way you can. Thanks for watching.